that's the deal with that relationship. People say to me, how did you stay so long? And I'm like, well, I was married for 33 years, but 33 years were not bad. You know, maybe 15 of them were bad. But we would have these long stretches where we would do really great together.
Also, there are things that only the two of you know.
That's right.
There are things
that I can't share with you.
Yeah, there are things that only the two of you know. So I actually understand that.
Y'all, not Tina Knowles getting her groove back by allegedly getting back with her ex, Matthew Knowles. Not spinning the block, but while they were both married to other people, no less. Y'all, what is going on in Hollywood? There have been rumors for a while about these two sneaking around for years, but we all thought it was a pile of BS. Because given the receipts that we have now, though, looks like they was getting down and dirty even after their divorce. But that's not all. Word on the streets is that her affair with her ex, Matthew Knowles, allegedly played a role in her divorce from her second husband, Richard Lawson, y'all. These two have been playing right up under our noses for a long time. Y'all, this is some spicy hot tea because the old folks is getting down. I'm not gonna lie though, it's kind of wild that Tina and Matthew were still allegedly messing with each other, considering how messy their own marriage was and how it ended because of his infidelity. But in her new memoir, Tina spoke about how she and Matthew had chosen to let go of the past for the sake of their daughters. And honestly, can you really beef when you're co-parenting Beyonce and Solange? In the book, she talked about how Matthew had started cheating on her in their very first year of their marriage.
From the very beginning, he was not faithful in the marriage, and you realized, you said, I need to do something. I need to make preparations.
Yes.
Tell us about your thinking back then.
Well, just because I was pregnant, they just got really bad at that time. I knew that I had to make a move, and I didn't want to be dependent on him. And so I started planning how I would get out of it. And
You
I
called
knew
it
that
your escape plan,
It was
Tina.
my escape plan.
But in an interview with Gayle King, she revealed that the marriage wasn't all that bad. Even though they had bad moments, they also had some good times.
That's the deal with that relationship. People say to me, how did you stay so long? And I'm like, well, I was married for 33 years, but 33 years were not bad. You know, maybe 15 of them were bad. But we would have these long stretches where we would do really great together.
Also, there are things that only the two of you know.
That's right.
There are things
that I can't share with you.
Yeah, there are things that only the two of
That's
you
right.
know. So I actually understand that.
Now, everybody knows that Matthew cheated on her multiple times because he had not one but two outside babies on her when they were married. But what she forgot to mention was that she was also cheating on him with Richard Lawson, who she would later go on to marry and then divorce, and allegedly go back to cheating on him with Matthew. Now, y'all remember how she said she found out that Matthew was cheating while she was pregnant with Beyonce, right? But this is the interesting thing, is that around that same time is when she met Richard. So here's the tea. Tina met Richard back in '81 while visiting her friend Gwen, who just so happened to be Richard's sister. Very wild, right? But here's the tea. Tina was very pregnant with Beyonce at the time and still married, but Richard didn't care. That man caught feelings on the spot and tried to make a move anyway. Like, sir, you see that belly poking? The boldness was loud from the jump, and Tina had to shut him down. Not just because she was married, but that Richard was married too, with a whole wife and child. Like even though she wasn't trying to go there, he didn't back off completely. Instead, he stuck around as a friend, even though it was clearly eating him up inside because he was still really into her. But to his credit, Tina's always said he was respectful and never crossed the line while she was still with Matthew. But you know how people talk. Over the years, there's been plenty of side eyes and quiet rumors, and some people think that the reason Tina seemed to be cool about Matthew cheating all those years is that she might have had something going on with Richard behind the scenes. And according to Beyonce's former vocal coach, David Brewer, Tina and Richard were allegedly smashing at the time. According to David Brewer, the marriage was super strained at the time because Matthew was allegedly into some illegal substances. In his tell-all book, he wrote, "Turns out he had escalated to stronger and even stranger behaviors. Rumor had it that had long since stopped satisfying his thirst and he had turned to crack." Not David claiming that it was a whole habit that eventually led Tina to start cheating on Matthew with nobody other than Richard Lawson. David wrote, "I soon discovered that although unhappily married, Celestine was not suffering all by herself. Going over to the main house to retrieve my keyboard one afternoon, I happened upon Celestine kissing a man. I recognized him immediately, Richard Lawson, a famous actor. The startled Celestine had no choice but to introduce me. Talk about awkward. She was supposed to be at her salon. I extended my hand to Richard, telling him how much I admired his work. He nodded. "It's a pleasure," he said. After letting him out of the house, Celestine turned. "Richard is my cousin," she said. "He's on that stuff." Richard also once hinted on Instagram that a little something happened between them back in the day, because in an Instagram post he said, "The thing that was so striking was that your beauty continued to be enhanced by your incredible heart, compassion, empathy, generosity, and philanthropy. You were pregnant with Beyonce at the time and married, so my incredible attraction for you then could only live in my fantasy." Well, that's definitely proof of the tea. But we don't know how long Tina's affair with Richard lasted, or even if he was the only one. But what we do know is that Matthew cheated on her like it was his full-time job, and it's not surprising that he eventually had not one but two outside babies on her. Well, Matthew's first outside child was a son named Nixon with a woman named Alexandra, and that broke Tina's heart. She ended up filing for divorce not long after. But rumor has it that Beyonce actually encouraged her to go through with it, but Tina decided to give Matthew another shot. Unfortunately, he turned around and got another woman pregnant. But Matthew's second baby mama is a woman named Takoya Branscombe, and they have a daughter together named Coy. But from the looks of her Instagram, Coy's doing pretty good. She seems to be leaning into the influencer life and just enjoying herself. But when it comes to Beyonce, it's no secret that she was really hurt by the way her dad treated her mom. She's never acknowledged Matthew's other kids, even though they're half siblings. A few years back, Takoya said she wished Beyonce and Coy could have some type of relationship, but that hasn't happened yet and probably won't. Takoya said, "They are half sisters, and maybe one day down the line that can be made possible." However, if B and Solo have yet to meet their half brother, we don't think the second half child is the charm. But that was the final straw. Tina just couldn't deal with him having yet another baby outside the marriage, so she went ahead and filed for divorce, for good this time. But now you'd think that after the divorce, she would finally give in to Richard, right? I mean, he had been around for 32 years at that point already, but no, she claimed that she was too traumatized from her marriage to even think about dating again. But Richard wasn't ready to give up. He stayed patient and consistent, and after 2 solid years of trying to win Tina over, she finally agreed to give the relationship a shot. They officially started dating in 2013. It might sound wild, but it took Richard 32 years from that time they first officially met to actually be with her. And that kind of persistence is rare, but so is timing, and this particular timing had people raising eyebrows. Tina said yes to Richard just days after the news came out that Matthew, her ex-husband, was getting remarried. According to someone else close to the situation, Richard has always had a lingering suspicion that Tina's decision might have had more to do with optics than her feelings. He wondered if she agreed to date him because she didn't want to be seen as one left behind or still single, while Matthew was moving on with someone else and starting a new chapter. It's not that she didn't care about Richard, but from his perspective, the timing felt a little too convenient. But interestingly, Tina tried to spin it like it was all about her being traumatized by this divorce, and that Richard was the one who came in and helped heal her heart. She made it seem like he was the one who saved her from the wreckage of her past and helped put herself back together. It was like she was painting this picture of him swooping in at just the right moment to help her get past all that pain. But looking at the timing, it kind of felt like there might have been more to the story, and maybe Richard wasn't exactly her knight in shining armor, but more of a guy who just happened to be there when a situation lined up.
We became friends and it hung out, and I supported her because she was going through a tough time with the divorce and the remarriage of her previous husband. And we just took our time, we became friends, we hung out, we traveled, and little by little, you know, all the things that were naturally connective, the connective tissue with us happened in a beautiful sort of evolutionary way.
Well, she eventually got married to Richard in 2015, but according to reports, Mr. Matthew Knowles allegedly lived in her head rent-free. But this isn't surprising because he was her first love and they were married for 33 whole years. Those feelings just don't go away in a few months or even a few years. And rumor has it that she's allegedly cheated on Richard Lawson with Matthew, even while she was remarried. I'm not gonna lie, this is wild, but it's not wild that Matthew would cheat on his current wife, because once a cheater, always a cheater. And we we've already established that he's the unrepentant type of cheater. But what's wild is that Tina allegedly cheated on Matthew with Richard, only to turn around and cheat on Richard with Matthew. Y'all, it's just a circle of life. But hey, at least she kept it in the family. So I guess that has to count for something, very much something. But speaking of Richard, their marriage was quite strained, and unsurprisingly, it had to do with Matthew. One of the first red flags was that Tina absolutely refused to drop Matthew's last name, even after she and Richard got married the proper way. He even did all the stuff about asking her kids for permission to marry her, and for a long time Tina refused to drop the Knowles last name, but after some time she and Richard finally came to a compromise. She took his last name and hyphenated it, becoming Tina Knowles Lawson. This had fans giving her a side-eye though, but hey, their marriage, their rules, right? However, this was not the end of that drama, because fans soon noticed that she was entirely too comfortable disrespecting Richard. In 2018, things took an interesting turn when they both appeared on a show together for Black Love, and Tina casually dropped a bombshell. She straight up said that Richard wasn't perfect. The comment immediately caught people's attention, sparking a little buzz. Now everyone started speculating about what was really going on behind the scenes, because the way Tina was out here saying he ain't perfect seemed kind of disrespectful. It was one of those moments where you could just tell that something seemed off, and people couldn't help but wonder if there was deeper issues at play in their relationship. The comment was casual, because yeah, literally nobody's perfect, but it just hit different and had people questioning just how perfect this picture of them really was.
I envisioned the type of man I wanted. I prayed for the type of man I wanted, and I got pretty much that. Is he perfect? Absolutely not. But, he has a lot of the qualities. No. He has a lot of the qualities that I love, and we're having a really good time.
And as you can see, he was definitely not thrilled about that statement. It wasn't so much what Tina said, but how she said it, and you could tell from the look on his face that he felt some type of way. Ever since then, their marriage seemed to hit a rough patch. The whole happy couple vibe started to fizzle out, and divorce rumors started swirling, and even worse, Tina was not remorseful about her comment. She doubled down on it on social media. She went as far as to shade on Instagram, saying, "I am careful not to confuse excellence with perfection. Excellence I can reach for. Perfection is God's business." She also added the caption, "I came across this quote this morning. I could not agree more with Michael J. Fox. I believe any human being who thinks that they are perfect or someone else could be perfect is delusional. I believe that only God is perfect." Now, I don't know if she really planned to be disrespectful, but that's kind of how it came across. And it didn't take long for fans to start comparing her relationship with Richard to Matthew. And well, let's just say that Richard came up short. Even though Matthew had dogged her out for 33 years, she never had one bad thing to say about him. She went on and on about how he was a great dad to their kids and stuff like that. Never once did she talk about him like she talked about Richard, and for a lot of fans, that was kind of telling. But y'all remember how she was reluctant to take Richard's name after the marriage because she wanted to keep Matthew's name, right? But the moment she filed for divorce, she yanked that name right off. Homegirl didn't even wait for the divorce papers to sign through. The moment he got served them divorce papers, she took his name off her social media. And that's how we found out that she was getting a divorce. And this was very telling, but it was also weird because why would you go back to your ex-husband's name? Most women choose to either keep their married name or go back to their maiden name, but she dropped one husband's name for the former husband, and fans started to add two and two together, and let me tell you, the math was adding up real quick. But at the end of the day gon' end, and that heart gon' want what it won't, and Miss Tina's heart looks like wants Matthew. But anyways, I got to know what y'all feel about these two lovebirds sneaking around with each other. Let me know what your thoughts are, and if you love this video, then you're gonna love the next one even more.